Hello. Well, this is partly a review of a watch and partly a review of the after-sales customer service of an AD, a boutique and the service centre. 2 of the 3 come out with top marks, and the other, well, not so hot. So the watch today is a JLC Polaris Mariner date. It is an absolutely fantastic watch, but I wasn't entirely happy about some of the changes that they had to make to the watch post-release. But if you are happy with those changes, then it's definitely a watch to put on your short list and try on. More on that later. Now, in January, I happened to walk into one of the local authorised dealers and I saw one of JLC's Polaris models. And I was quite drawn to the watch as I've always wanted a JLC, and this was something that little bit different. However, it didn't quite tick all of the boxes for me. I wasn't so sure of the Fotina lume or the lack of a display case back. And actually, one of the reasons that I'd gone into the AD in the first place was because they were advertising the new Polaris Mariner line. However, they didn't have any stock of this piece, and they still don't. So a week or so later, I wandered into a JLC boutique where they actually had both of the Mariner models, the date and the memo box, on display. Now, they looked a bit big to me, but I tried them on and I was immediately taken by the date version. While the dimensions looked really big, when I actually put it on my wrist, it wore similar to a Rolex GMT. But for me, the memo box just wore a little bit too thick for my liking. Now, this is the boutique and there's no discounts at the boutique, so the price was high enough to make me stop and think about it. For the date version, it was 16,400 Singapore dollars, and it was just over 26,000 Singapore dollars for the memo box. So to put that into context, the price for the date version, it was pretty much on par with Rolex Submariners on the grey market at that time. So you can imagine my delight when I found out that one of the local authorised dealers had stock and I was able to get the watch at a slight discount, but one that actually made it work for me. So onto the watch itself. It really is a fantastic looking watch. It has a blue fume dial, partly skeletonized hands, and an upgraded movement that lasts about 70 hours or so. And it has to be said that the movement is really wonderful to look at through the display case back as well. Now, one of the big selling points that JLC were pushing at the time was that the watch is also an ISO certified dive watch with a depth rating of about 300 meters. I was also looking for something slightly different to the normal style of dive watch. JLC has a compressor style case, so it has an inner rotating bezel, and that sets it apart quite nicely. This inner rotating bezel is controlled by the upper screw down crown, which has orange banding on it, so when it's in the open position, it warns you before you go on a dive, should you ever wish to. One thing to note is that that lower crown is not screwed down. And even with the 300 meter depth rating, I'm not entirely confident I want to put it in a pool to test it out. But nevertheless, it's a very good package overall, and in many ways it gives the Submariner a good run for its money, especially if you can manage to pick it up closer to the actual retail price of a Submariner, which I guess might become more possible as these watches become a bit more available and there may be a little bit more of a discount from authorised dealers. You'll have noticed that I don't have much in the way of video of the watch, and that's because I ended up returning it to the authorised dealer after a few months. The problem? Well, the minute hand's lume didn't work. Oh, that's an easy fix, you say. Well, in this case, not really. So here's a shot of what the watch is meant to look like. And one of the things that you see here is that orange minute hand is really striking and fits in perfectly with the rest of the orange accents throughout the watch. However, here's my watch against a few competitors. The Mariner is obviously on the left-hand side of the screen. Next to it is the Seco Captain Willard, then the Submariner, then a Moser, and finally, but not least, a Zelos Swordfish Frost. And as you can see through this 1-minute video, the Mariner's minute hand fades really quickly here, and it's the second most expensive watch based on recommended retail price in this lineup. Only the Moser costs more, and the Moser isn't a dive watch. A sports watch, yes, not a dive watch. And I have to say, I thought I could live with this lack of lume in the minute hand. And it didn't bother me at first, but then it did. After all, the minute hand is one of the most important parts of the lume in a dive watch, and if that's not working, is it really a dive watch? So first stop for me was to the boutique to ask if this was a known issue, and they hadn't heard of anything but said they'd check for me. So after a little while they got back, and when they got back to me, they said that they needed to return the watch to the manufacturer to get a new yellow minute hand fitted instead of the orange one. So next stop for me was the authorised dealer, who asked me to send the watch to the Richemont Service Centre. And I eventually agreed to this, with the caveat that the watch would only be checked for condition and nothing else would happen to it until I'd seen what the changed watch would look like. Unfortunately, as soon as Richemont got hold of the watch, I received a message from the authorised dealer service people to say that the Richemont Service Centre appeared to ignore my explicit instructions and had actually already sent the watch to the manufacturer for the minute hand to get replaced. Now, as I wasn't entirely sure I wanted to get the yellow minute hand, and had told them straight off the bat that if that did happen, then the watch was going to get returned, that's what I asked for. And it has to be said that even after I'd seen the replacement picture, which I'm showing you now, it just confirmed things for me that I wanted to get a refund. And that's because for me, the orange lume was a key draw for the watch, and it fitted in with all the other orange accents throughout the entire watch. Now, the authorised dealer and boutique were very understanding of the situation, and the authorised dealer refunded the watch and had actually bought a separate strap for the watch from the boutique, which gives you an idea of the fact that I really did like this watch. So from the authorised dealer and the boutique side of things, there's no issues whatsoever with the after-sales customer service. However, I'm not happy that the Richemont Service Centre ignored explicit instructions given to them, and it does mean that I will think twice before getting another Richemont branded watch. Now, if those concerns could be addressed, then I'd be a lot more comfortable with the stable as a whole, in the fact that there are some fantastic watches in the Richemont group, but I'm slightly worried with the experience that I've had that the service centre service may not be up to scratch. So all told, the Polaris Mariner Date is a really fantastic watch, and it's worthwhile considering, especially if you like the new yellow minute hand that's now available. However, do bear in mind that there may be some less than stellar back-end service, and that's got to be weighed up in any decision that you eventually make. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. If you have any comments, please feel free to leave them below. Thanks very much for listening, and until next time.